the idea of a flourishing community to, again, help to foster a community of which we're proud, a community that is supportive of the college, but that also is supportive of a much broader community, and that lives the mission of the school, which is to leave a lasting and positive impact in our world.
In this video, you'll meet Sam McKinney, who's the principal of Upper Canada College in Toronto, Ontario. And in this video, you'll hear him talk about how the school balances its sense of history and its legacy with a perspective that looks forward into the future. And you'll also hear him talk about the financial aid that's available to families all across Toronto and abroad with boys wanting to go to UCC. Why
Great.
don't we start with you telling us 3 things you love about your job?
Well, look, in so many ways, I think I have the best job in the city of Toronto or the province or what have you. I feel incredibly fortunate. I work at an incredible organization, an organization that's entering its 192nd year, nearly 2 centuries old, in a wonderful city, the city of Toronto, with exceptional colleagues. I work with individuals who are deeply committed to the work that they do, great professionals who are also a great fun to be around. And then in a community that I would say has been wonderful for our family to be a part of. And finally, I work with just extraordinary young men, individuals who bring with them the many different gifts and talents and abilities at the various ages and stages of their learning journey, from senior kindergarten boys who I have the pleasure of going down and reading with on occasion, through to our graduates at year 12 who are individuals heading off to exciting opportunities beyond their time at the school. Quite unbelievable young men. So a real pleasure for me to have that opportunity.
And you said that you, before this call, we were chatting, and you said
Yes.
that this is your 5th year as principal of the school. When you arrived, was there something that surprised you about UCC?
Many things surprise me about UCC. I suppose the history and tradition hasn't been a surprise, but what really has surprised me is the forward-looking focus of the college. Perhaps it shouldn't surprise me, but the college set forward in its strategic intentions the idea of a bold future, and really is taking steps towards that. While its history is a fantastic foundation, it's not an anchor. It's simply something to build upon. And really the way that it is looking forward, looking at programs and opportunities to ensure that what has been defined in the mission of the college, a transformational learning experience, is what we're able to deliver to the boys. So the forward focus has been something that perhaps has been pleasing, maybe not surprising. I would also say that the community of the college is a wonderfully inclusive community, one that is extraordinarily diverse. When we were speaking just before this call, we were talking about the circumstance that I've had personally to live and work outside of Canada. And in fact, spending 20 years overseas, it was actually 23 years between leaving the city of Toronto and returning to Toronto. And the incredible diversity of our city and our country, the wonderful inclusion that we feel in this city and country, is something that also is experienced here at the college, with more than 40 different nationalities by birth represented in our student population, with a great range of individuals across socioeconomic stratas of our society, supported by a financial assistance program in the school. Diversity is something that has been wonderfully pleasing, maybe not surprising, but incredibly pleasing about my experience at UCC.
And what do you mean exactly with the forward-looking focus of the school when you say that it was something that's pleasing about the school? In what ways does it enact this forward-looking aspect of it?
Yeah, thank you. I think I would highlight it in many, perhaps by examples would be the best way to speak about a forward focus or a future-oriented focus. We're Yes, tradition is important, and you can't avoid 192 years of history and tradition. There's a palpable sense that people have gone before you when you walk through the halls of the school. There's a wonderful network of alumni, and a wonderfully strong community in the school. But when I'm talking about perhaps forward focus, I could speak to programming aspects. Elements like even just within the last few weeks, a conversation that we had with individuals in our community, racialized individuals, individuals who would identify as Black, having a conversation about anti-Black racism, and that with a value of pluralism identified in the 5 fundamental values of the college, how we live a pluralistic viewpoint or outlook in the school, and how we can ensure that the community of the school is one that is inclusive, that we take the steps that are necessary societally, as we're observing in Canada and certainly in Toronto, to be an inclusive community, one that is supportive of all individuals and recognizes that differences are to be celebrated, not to divide us. And that what we cherish is similarity between us as individuals, and that when we can recognize that differing perspectives add a richness and a value to a community, we're a better community. And so I would say that remaining and being current in all respects in issues such as anti-Black racism and inclusion and diversity in the school would be one aspect. Programming. A recent addition to the college's offering is programming in the area of design thinking, in support of STEM or STEAM approaches within a school. We're an international baccalaureate school, and from year 6 or grade 6 through to grade 10, we offer a program in design, and really in developing the skill set of design thinking. That has required renovation to facilities and the implementation of design centers within the school. It's become an incredibly popular area for our students, and an area that is bringing about a very human-centered approach to problem solving. That would be a programmatic example of a forward-looking perspective and viewpoint. Those would be 2 examples that spring to mind.
Right. And so speaking of the legacy, that you are the latest principal in the history of the school, when you think about the kind of impact you want to make on the school and the kind of legacy that you would like to have, what kind of things come to mind?
Yeah, thank you. I'm principal number 19. I think of Steve Yzerman, a hockey player who played for Detroit, an Ontario-born Canadian who wore that number. That's what sprang to mind when you said what number, or you're one of a number. And so I'm number 19, which is quite an incredible privilege for me. And I guess in many ways I'm a steward of the college. I have the opportunity to lead, as I mentioned earlier, a remarkable faculty and staff group and student group, to engage with our alumni and to steward the college into or towards its 3rd century as an institution. And that role of stewardship is to, again, build on the foundation of our history. I would suggest that one of the earliest opportunities that we had to build on that history was in the development of new strategic directions. So 3 years ago, we launched new strategic directions for the college. We refreshed the vision and mission of the school, defined our values, and set 3 specific goal areas that we were focused on as we approach the beginning of our 3rd century. Those are around best self, so the idea that when a student is here at the college, that we provide them with the opportunity and support them in becoming the very best version of themselves that they can be. The idea of a flourishing community to, again, help to foster a community of which we're proud, a community that is supportive of the college, but that also is supportive of a much broader community, and that lives the the mission of the school, which is to leave a lasting and positive impact in our world. That's what we seek to provide, a learning experience that inspires our boys to have that degree of impact, supported by our community. And finally, a bold future. So those were the three goal areas of the strategic direction. I suppose what I would like my legacy to be is that that we have taken the strongest of steps towards supporting the development of best self, that we are a flourishing community within a flourishing community, and that we are taking strides towards a bold future. I think that the current period that we're in, this COVID-19 impacted period, has really challenged education. And I've been so very pleased by the way that we've responded to that challenge. It's meant that we've had to embrace many aspects of learning, teaching, and operations that were embodied within that bold future. The idea of hybrid education, of learning both in person and online, supporting that through the use of technology, working remotely, as many of us have had to do. It's really brought the future to today in many respects, and I've been so incredibly inspired by the creativity, the collegiality, and the commitment of all across our school as we've endeavored to undertake that task. I would say that if I were to write my legacy, it would be that I stewarded our community in collaboration with a wonderfully strong leadership group, faculty and staff, towards, yes, that strong community, flourishing community, to individuals who are becoming their best selves, and a school that is embracing the future.
Well, the idea of becoming your best self, especially over the past couple of years, certainly since you've been at UCC, the way that we talk about educating our boys, developing our boys, and their impact on the world outside of the school it's a huge area of attention, I would say, over the past couple of years. So how has that affected how you see an all boys education and the kind of culture that you want to have at UCC?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to answer that question and just say that, yes, we are an all boys school, but I think this is an imperative in education. It is true for an all boys institution, but it is equally true for any school, and even for our broadest community. I think we're recognizing the importance of well-being, physical, social, and emotional health, and the important role that education plays in fostering well-being, in supporting individual well-being, in responding when there are challenges, but also providing skills and abilities to individuals so that they can navigate those ups and downs that we all inevitably face. So I would say that schools are responding to that in programmed ways, in ways of programming, in structural elements like providing the services that we have in the college of psychological services, social work or counseling services, psychotherapy services, strong advising. The relationship that exists between our students and our faculty and staff is wonderfully strong, and I believe that it helps to foster well-being. I believe that an individual's best self is reflected in, and we use the term head, heart, and humanity in our strategic directions documentation. And I suppose I could take that to say that the head, the development of our intellect and the way that we think, the way that we act, the way that we approach challenges of our lives may be influenced by head. Heart, you could perhaps speak to the health components of heart, but also the heart that we have of creating an empathy and an inclusion that helps us to be the types of community really are most beneficial for us as a society. And then that notion of humanity, taking and extending that thought to that place of true inclusion, diversity, and the recognition that of other-mindedness, that it isn't solely about me, but it is about others as well, and developing an other-mindedness. Broadening on that thought of inclusion, as part of the strategic directions development, we identified 5 fundamental values. The value of learning, the idea that learning is a journey and not a destination, and that we seek to have a growth mindset and to continue to learn, not just during our time at school, but in our lives well beyond. The notion of service and other-mindedness, the notion of community, and the value of a strong community and strong relationships, trusting relationships within a community. The notion of well-being that we've just discussed, as well as that notion of pluralism. Those 5 fundamental values underpin a UCC education and very much the experience of each boy within the college.
What do you think, what assumptions do you think people have about UCC, and what would you say to rectify those assumptions?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, again, I'll speak of the history of the college. As we approach a 3rd century in the college's history, the college has stood for many things over time. And I would suggest that there are times when the school has, and I believe even the Wikipedia page that speaks of UCC, talks about a period of time when UCC might have reinforced or supported white establishment in the city of Toronto. That we would have been viewed as elite and perhaps elitist. I don't have any problems with the definition of elite, and I think that we strive to be elite, that is, to be at the very top of our game and offering a program and opportunities for engagement that would be of a very top standard. But I think elitist is what I believe we're not. I have 3 sons, each of whom has graduated from the college. They have a tremendous breadth of friendships within and outside of the school community. And I know that our experience as parents in the school, not just as an administrator, has been one of again, a sense of inclusion. I think the college has perhaps had that sentiment felt about it. That hasn't been my experience, and I believe that the college is one that is an environment that is welcoming, that is incredibly supportive, with programs of, I mentioned financial assistance earlier. We have an offering of more than $5.4 million annually in financial assistance to support any individual into the college. The financial assistance program supports more than 220 students annually into the school. That socioeconomic diversity is one that is incredibly healthy for the college, and is making it a wonderful environment to work within. I would suggest that while we sit in a very fortunate position at the top of a hill in Toronto, we're not, and while there might be, a fence surrounding the school, this is an open environment and one that is welcoming of individuals from across the full breadth of the community of Toronto and nationally and internationally.
There are day students and boarding students both at UCC. How do you create a unified culture and school life between those who are spending all of their time on campus and those who have a home to go to at night?
Great, thank you. It's a great question. We are indeed a day and boarding school. We're predominantly day, but we do have an incredibly vibrant boarding population in the school, and that population has existed throughout our history as a school. Um, the student population annually approaches 1,200 students. We're just short of that number annually, about 1,170. And approximately 88, 89 of those students are boarders. Those boarders come from as many as 25 countries in last year's boarding population. They are a wonderful group coming from across Canada. We had individuals from Alberta through to the East Coast of Newfoundland in our boarding community. And that community, as I mentioned, wonderfully vibrant, involved in the full breadth of school activities, very much interconnected with our day population. Our student population of 1170 begins with senior kindergarten students. And we have one class of senior kindergarten students. We have entry years at year 3 and year 5, year 6, year 7, and into our high school. Our boarders don't begin until that high school age, typically starting in around year 9 and progressing through to graduation. They are through classroom experience, through co-curricular activities, sports, drama, music, and the like, all involved in the full program of the school. The culture of the school is one, I've mentioned inclusion a few times, but it's one where individuals from our boarding community and our day community interact in all respects, in all areas of endeavor. And it's wonderfully pleasing that our family lives on campus, and we have an opportunity to interact with the boarders on a regular basis. And indeed, this year even, given the circumstances of COVID-19, our family is going to move out of the principal's residence on the school grounds, and boarders are going to move in here. We've decided that it would be helpful to create an environment where boys can be in single rooms. And we've taken the decision this year to create more single rooms by vacating this home where a number of our boarders will be able to reside this year, and in support of the boarding program. It's a wonderfully vibrant program in the school.
And for the day students who are more local, where across the city are they coming from?
Yeah, look, you could put the city on a map and then draw spokes of a wheel out from the school. Students come to us from down towards the lake, east towards Scarborough and beyond, west towards Mississauga, north towards Richmond Hill. They come from all spokes of that wheel, and many students travel a significant distance to come to school, some by public transit, some by personal transport, and others will walk or ride a bicycle to school. So there isn't one specific neighborhood for students in the school. We draw from all across the city. Indeed, with the boarding community, then from across the country and globally. So there isn't one neighborhood for the school, that is for sure.
And the financial assistance that you mentioned that's available, is there certain qualities or assessments that go into who is able to access that financial aid?
Sure. Look, financial assistance is available to any applicant in the school. And it is that, and perhaps it's helpful for me to just speak a little bit about our admission process generally, and then about financial assistance. We're a fortunate school that has a strong demand during the season of admission. Our applicant to place in the school would be approximately 5 to 1 in that neighborhood of applicants to places available in the school. As part of the process of admission, a family has the option of choosing to apply for financial assistance. That is needs-based financial assistance. It's not scholarship for attributes. It's based on a family's financial need. And if a family presents a circumstance where their need is for full tuition, that is what the award is. If a family's financial circumstance indicates that the need is for half tuition, then that is what the award is. That's all undertaken by an external organization to the school. So it is quite a separate process, and we follow the guidance of Apple Financial, who undertake that for us. We're, as I mentioned, in the circumstance of predecessors to me having created financial assistance as a priority. Our school community fundraised towards the development of an endowment, and it is the endowment that provides significant support to our financial assistance program. So each year we're able to offer a very significant sector-leading financial assistance amount available for individuals who demonstrate financial need.
Okay. So I guess along similar lines, what kind of family is drawn to UCC?
That's a great question. I hope that the answer to that question is a family that is seeking what our mission defines as a transformational learning experience. A family that wants for their child, for their son specifically, an opportunity to become the best version of themselves. They want a breadth of opportunities available for their child. Opportunities that are clearly within the classroom, a rigorous liberal education that is supported by a breadth of co-curricular opportunities, opportunities on a sporting field or in a theater, with a musical instrument, a club. There are 20 different sporting activities in the school, performances across all year levels at the school that are theater in nature, musical opportunities across our year levels. There are approaching 100 clubs that are student-led for our students in the school. And that breadth of opportunity is what I would anticipate a family would be seeking for their son. Ultimately, what I hope and what I believe we provide is the development of a platform for an individual to stand on when they leave the school. Ultimately, yes, we have academic experiences and co-curricular experiences that contribute the learning that occurs in the college. And when a student leaves, they leave with those skills and abilities having been developed in partnership here at college. But I believe a student also leaves with an honest sense of who they are, what they can do, an honest sense of themselves, and a sense of confidence that they can then use as their platform to go on and take the challenges that will arise for them beyond their time at the school. And if we're successful in creating engaging in meaningful opportunities, there are more planks of experience in that platform for those individuals to stand on. Successes are going to come for each individual quite uniquely. Some wonderful successes on a sporting field or with a musical instrument or from a classroom as exceptional mathematics students or students of literature and history, that they're thespians or musicians, or that they take those experiences and that becomes the platform for them as they tackle life's challenges beyond their time in the school.
And can you think of an example of a student that you were worked with that perhaps there's a long history and someone can look at the alumni page of the UCC website and see the people who have gone through there, but someone who, an example in your experience of a smaller piece of success, or perhaps not quite a much like celebrated or famed moment of success for them?
As you're speaking, look, there are lots of individuals who jump to mind for me. The fact that the individual who was, there are the stars, right? The fact that the captain of our soccer team a few years ago was also the lead saxophonist in our orchestras. What a remarkable individual. And that another individual who graduated recently was a member of a couple of national championship winning rowing crews, but was also the most extraordinary artist. And I have a piece of his artwork hanging in my office. Those are in many ways, those who rise and are the stars, so to speak. But let me tell you a really quick story of an individual who I don't think he would be embarrassed if I said he wasn't our strongest academic student. But I want to tell you a story of a difference maker. We arrived here to this school with a husband and wife and 3 children. And those 3 children were leaving a school that they loved in Australia to come to Canada to support their dad in a new job and the rest for him. And I had 3 boys, one who was approaching graduation, in fact, in grade 12, one in grade 10, and one in grade 9. Okay, and pretty vulnerable years. We arrived at the school and we arrived at this home, and right near us is the school's arenas. We're fortunate to have 2 hockey arenas at the school grounds. And Thursday night is what's called Boarders Ice. And it was the first week of school, and the Boarders had just arrived, and it was a free skating time, and the Boarders were going to be down skating. And my guys heard that it was free skating, so they thought, Dad, let's find some skates and we'll go for a skate. Now, my kids were born in Australia, right? So you can picture how they skate. And we went and found some skates. We borrowed skates, and they went over, and I was with them. And we arrived, and there was a group of kids from some Canadian kids and some international kids, and clearly kids who, you know, in many ways were born with skates on. And my guys took one look. They'd tied their skates, and they'd ankle walked up to the edge of the arena, and they looked out there and they said, "No, we're not going out." And over skated a boy who was a member of our varsity hockey team and a leader in our community. He was a boarder. He was from the East Coast. And he said, "Come on, fellas, let me get you some sticks and come skate with me." And one group was down at one end, and this boy took my sons, who were embarrassed, and embraced them and said, "Come with me, fellas, and let's have some fun." And that gesture of generosity, this was an individual who, as I mentioned, I don't think he'd be embarrassed if I said he wasn't our strongest academic, but he was a community builder. He's a person who was a difference maker in my life and in the welcome of our boys to the school, a really genuinely decent young man. And for me, that was a wonderful symbol of who this community helps to foster. And he saw the value in that opportunity, making people feel welcome, making them feel part of something. And it was a wonderfully important moment. I could point to lots of different examples like that, where individuals have gone out of their way. We had a group of individuals this year in support of a family that was losing a mom to cancer. 2 boys who were twins and had been in the school since senior kindergarten, who were going to lose their parent. And they created the Run for a Cure event here at the school, brought our community and external school communities to our school to raise funds, to raise awareness, and again, difference making. Individuals who this year during this COVID period have been printing face shields, and I look at my desk, and that's an example that springs immediately to mind. Volunteering, tutoring. We have faculty right now who are running summer learning programs, not for our kids, but for TDSB kids who didn't have the continuity of learning that our kids were really fortunate to have this year as a school. So a group of more than a dozen are offering free summer lessons online for students in TDSB schools. That's happening right now. It's a wonderful community that has, I mentioned other-mindedness, really embrace that notion of there are others, and we have a responsibility. It's not just an opportunity, but a responsibility to have an impact in that regard. So when you ask me that question, that's what springs to mind. I hope I answered the question, but that's genuinely where the question took me.
Right. Well, on another note, what is the relationship between UCC and parents? Like, what are those channels of communication? And if there is a conflict between the school and a parent for whatever reason, how are those resolved?
Yeah, I think uh, conflicts are inevitable because I'm a dad, and I want the best for my kids. And when I think something is not meeting the best, then I'm going to voice that. I think that what I would say is that with parents, we certainly strive to form a partnership. We're partnering in the education of children. And a parent is investing the most precious asset that they have, their child, in us. I'll say frankly, that's a humbling circumstance, that somebody trusts us enough to invest not their finance, their child in us. Um, so families should hold us to an incredibly high standard. And if we're not meeting that standard, then let's have that conversation. But if we have an effective partnership, then we can have an effective conversation about that. So partnership is incredibly important. I've mentioned community and the notion of community. A parent and a family joins the community of the college, and it's a wonderfully vibrant community. Our parent organizations, both at our preparatory school and our upper school, are incredibly strong. And whether it's social occasions or fundraising occasions, or I just received an email from our parent organization yesterday that outlined all of the voluntary activities that are taking place this summer that both families and kids can be involved in. Down at the Rogers Foundation, putting food boxes together. That's the sort of activity that our parents groups are involved in. And they're, again, community building activities. More important than fundraising is friend raising in many respects in our community. And so our parent organizations are very much focused on that. When there are problems and challenges, we tackle them honestly, openly, and exercising that partnership that exists between us. And I consider that partnership to be like a muscle. It has to be exercised to be strong. So we have to exercise the partnership that exists between families and the school.
And along similar lines, these parents who have children at UCC are likely to be working, likely to have their own busy lives. Is there any expectation in terms of their involvement in school life and how much time they have to devote to parental activities?
Yeah, look, our community is all shapes and sizes, at all levels of engagement and less engagement. So really it's about opportunity. And again, like a student, there are a breadth of opportunities for a student to be involved in. And while I believe that, in many ways, the students who've gained the greatest outcomes from the school have been those who've been most involved. I think in many ways, families find ways to become involved. And that can be in any multiple of ways. It might be helping on Grandparents' Day here at the college, volunteering, or Remembrance Day, or on open houses or things of that nature. It might be helping a child at home bake something for a bake sale, and not coming into the school for that, but helping their child in support of an activity in the school. It could be we have parents who help with communication and as year level sort of representatives to help foster a sense of community at those discrete levels. And parents who are assisting with many different aspects of the college, coming in to work in the library as a volunteer, and in so many other respects. Maybe just bringing their family out to Norville, our outdoor school, out towards Georgetown, on a Maple Madness Day when we've got the maple trees tapped and we're making maple syrup. But they're coming on a Saturday or a Sunday to come and participate in an activity out there at a time that suits them. There isn't a stigma attached to if you can or you can't at all. It's that the community is here and become involved in any way that you might. We're incredibly fortunate to, as I mentioned earlier, live on the school ground, and we have parent functions. This number astonished me. If you want something that surprised me, you asked me earlier about surprises. Here's a number that surprised me. We have over 1,000 people who volunteer for the school every year. That number staggered me when I arrived. That 1,000 different individuals are involved in all kinds of activities. Alumni who organize branch events in London or New York or San Francisco or Hong Kong. That there are individuals who are involved in those parent organizations, members of our board, members of our foundation, library volunteers, volunteer coaches. Parents will find their niche and their opportunity to be involved, and a great many do. And those who aren't able to are still incredibly vibrant members of our community.
And if UCC was a person, what kind of personality traits would it have?
Oh, you're getting a bit esoteric with your questions now. This is good. What type of personality would it have? I believe that it would have a strength of character, an honesty and integrity that are at the very heart and foundation of that individual. That they would have a sense of purpose, that they also have a sense of responsibility. They would be an individual who has a warmth and an inclusiveness about them, because they recognize, again, that we're all different, and that difference is just a strength, something to be recognized but valued. I think that the individual would be one who is seeking to make a positive difference in their world. And I say their world, not the world, because each of us has a world around us. Some have a platform that's very broad. We are humbled that an individual like Michael Wilson is an alumnus of our school. And Michael, before his passing, made an extraordinary difference as a business person, as a politician, as an individual who raised our collective awareness around the importance of mental health. His platform was incredibly broad, but he made a wonderful difference in the lives of others. And then there are others who will just be the volunteer softball coach in their neighborhood, but they know that that's of value and importance, and that they have that sense of purpose and responsibility. I would say that that's a character trait, or a trait that I would say, if you were to define UCC, it would have those character traits would be at the fundamental center of UCC as a person.
Right. And what advice do you have for parents who are in the middle of their school search right now?
Yeah, thank you. Look, good luck. It's not easy, because there are some great schools that families have to choose from. I believe that UCC is one of those schools that should be under consideration, but I would also say that other schools should be as well. That we're the right place for many individuals. And what I would suggest is investigate the school, spend time learning and understanding, and trying to match what the school represents and offers with what you know of for your child and about your child. I've often stood in front of a group of individuals at an open house, and I've asked them, as they take a walk around, to take a moment to picture their child in a room, or seated in that auditorium, or on a basketball court, or on a theater or stage. Picture their child there, and how does that make them feel? That will be, in many ways, the guide. Interact with students where it's possible. This year it might be more difficult with open houses and other things being online. But again, I'd come back to that idea of the most valuable asset that we have in our lives. For Rosie, my wife, and I, our 3 sons are the most valuable thing that we will ever have. And we will invest them we did invest them very carefully in the learning opportunities that they've had, in what we've had the pleasure of involving them in. And we've done so in ways that we hope that the institution would care for them as we care for them, will provide them challenge and opportunity as we would hope for them, will know them uniquely and well as an individual. And I believe UCC offers those things.